Good morning, YouTube. Tim Mucker here. And in this video, I'm going to do a little bit of a code along. Well, you can code along. It's Friday morning before work, and I work as a web developer. So what's better to get warmed up for work than to actually code? Now, my idea for this morning was to create a little app that basically tells you if you can retire or not. It's not going to be fully complete developed app taking all the factors. It's just going to take in a few, and it's more for just the fun of programming than actual accuracy as to. So disclaimer out there: don't say, oh well, it said I should have retired and I retired and then I don't have enough money. But anyway, so I've been using a lot of Bootstrap, so I thought maybe I should mix it up a bit and use a little bit of Bulma CSS. And so let's go to Bulma here, and we'll use some of their stuff as the styling. Let's go to get started. And I think we'll do just probably the easiest way to get this started. So just use the one CSS file from the CDN with the HTML link here. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to open a folder, and probably going to need to make a folder. So you see I was fooling around with this last night a little bit. Let's call the new folder retirement-YouTube, and let's create that folder. Okay, and I'm going to click OK. And I'm using VS Code this morning. You can use whatever text editor you prefer. Yes, I trust the authors. Okay, let's create some files. Let's create an index.php. Let's create a form.php. Let's create a form handler.php. Let's create a folder called includes. And in the includes folder, let's create a file called retirement classes.php. Okay. And let me rename these. Let me do it in some form handler.php. Let's just do them all in caps, just be consistent. This will be form, and this will be index. Okay. Actually, let me just, I'll do that one in lowercase. Index. Okay. All right, anyways. All right, so I'm on my index.php. I'm going to expand outline with Emmet. The theme I'm using today is Darkula, which kind of takes after the JetBrains themes, but also as Halloween is approaching, I think I should be using Darkula or Dracula. I think there's a Hocus Pocus theme. I should be using that. Just the right thing to do. Okay, so I'm going to pull in the Bulma CSS here. And let's just paste in that link, and I'll do Alt-Z to get some word wrap, but it is actually a fairly short link. And we'll call this retirement app. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do inside the body is let's create a my own class. Let's call it form container. Okay, and then let's go take a look at their documentation for their forms. Utilities, library, let's click on form. Okay, let's look at the general. All right, so they have an example. So we have a label, a div class called control, and let's show the code here. Let me just go on here, and we can have a placeholder in the input. Class is just input, label is just label, div class is field, and okay, control. All right, let's start with that. So I'm going to just, do we have a form wrapper around this? Yeah, I'm gonna wrap a form wrapper around it. So I'm gonna, well, a form tag around it to wrap around it. And the action is going to be, let's say, form.php. And then the method is going to be post. Okay. And then within here, now let's take a look at their example. So we have a div class of field. And then within the div class of field, we have a label with a class of label, plus a div with a class of control. And within that div, we have an input with a class of input. All right, let's expand that and we'll see where we're at. So we've got our label, we've got our div class control, and we've got our input. So, all right, so let's just let's start a local server. And so, oops, pull up the terminal here. And so I'm going to just type in PHP -s localhost 8000. And we've got a development server started there. And so I'm just going to go now to localhost 8000. And we see got this nice thing all the way across the top. So I want to link in my own custom CSS so we don't have all of that. So we're going to have to create a custom CSS file as well. And so, yeah, I'm going to call it style.css so that works. So we'll go over here, create a file called style.css. And so in this class, we have a form container class. So I'm going to target that. And I'm just going to close that out. So form container class. Within that, what I want the display to be is flex. I want I want to align items to the center. I want to justify content to the center. I want the flex direction to be a column, and I want to have the height to be 100% of the view height. Okay, and then the form, what I want for the form is I want the width to be 33% of the view width. Let's see where that puts us. So we've got this input here. And now we see the input is down there. So that's kind of what I want. I want it kind of in the center here. So that's good. Okay. Now we have to go back. Let's go back to our index.php and we'll label some stuff. So this is going to be a label for, let's call it amount money. And we'll say something like enter the amount of money you currently have. Okay. And we'll give this a name of amount money. And let's also give it an ID of amount money. Okay. And while we're doing that, let's get a sip of coffee. All right. So let's copy this because we're going to do a few more of those. So do another couple of those, maybe like 4 of them, I think. And we'll also want to say, let's say currently have not in the stock market. Okay. And then for here, I'm going to change this one a little bit, and we'll call this stock market. And we'll say enter the amount of money you currently have in the stock market. Okay. Get rid of this. And instead, we'll say something like enter your current yearly expenses. Okay. And we'll change this to, let's do I don't know, current expenses. Okay. And then finally, we'll get rid of this, and we'll say something like enter the amount of years left you expect to live. And we'll call this one, I have to fix this one up here. We'll call this life expectancy. Okay, and then this one was for current expenses. Okay, and let's bring this down and refresh. And so now you'll see we have our form starting out, starting to look kind of nice. And let's take a look. Do we have a submit button down here? Past the checkbox, radio field. Okay. Well, they have a cancel button, but I think all we really need is this code here. So let's copy that and let's just paste that in there. And just make this look a little nicer. Okay, and we'll save and let's take a look. Okay, so yeah, we got our submit button. We want to button as class. I'm going to change this to an input and see if it changes. So input changes to an input, and we'll say type equals submit. Name is submit. Class, or sorry, ID is submit. Okay, and let's refresh. And we've got that, but okay, so get rid of this stuff. And now save and refresh. And we've got our submit button. Okay, so that should work. All right, and so now I've got that done. Let's go to the form.php. Again, I'm going to do a little outline here, and we'll say, we'll actually call this retirement form results because that's really what the results are going to show up. And I'm going to go here. Let's actually just link in all this stuff into here and get another sip of coffee. All right. And we'll have our form container class. And within that, we're just going to have some PHP, and we're going to include once the form handler.php, and okay, and so we're including that. All right. And so now I think all we need to do for that page is that, and let's go to the form handler. And we're going to have our opening and closing tags, and we're going to say if is set, and then we'll do the post method and submit that. Oh, and I want to change the types here. Hold on. So I'm kind of all over the place because I'm just woken up. So we have type text, 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 and text. We can do a little bit of controlling with enter and put numbers here. So, and we'll just have them enter some integers for each of these. So I'm going to change these to number. That'll do a little validation for what they enter in. Okay, and let's go back here. All right, so this is saying if they hit the submit button, then we're going to get the variables. So we'll notice our variables are amount of money, stock market, current expenses, and life expectancy. So we'll say amount money equals the post method, and the amount money. Then let's have the stock market. Okay, that's the post stock market. And then we've got to go back. We've got current expenses and life expectancy. Okay. How do I spell it? Tansy? Expectancy. All right. Okay. So we've got all of that. All right. What I want to do is actually, let's take this closing here. Let me X that out. And we'll go down here and just open up a PHP tag at the bottom and paste that in, and then close it. Okay. And we'll get rid of this. And now what I want to do is include once from the includes folder, and we'll call the retirement. Oops, if I can spell that, retirement classes.php. Okay. And okay, so we've got that coming in. Let's now move to our retirement classes here and program in some of the logic. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start with a class of retirement. Okay. And I'm going to have a public, and then we have to take a look at some of these forms. So amount money, stock market, current expenses, and life expectancy. Okay. All right. So now let's create some methods. All right. That we can call on an object that we create, a retirement object. All right. So I'm going to create a function, and let's call the function yearly deficit. Okay. So this is how much each year is going to cut into your retirement. And so we're going to need to take in not the amount of money, the money that you have in your stock market, and your current expenses, because we're saying that the stock market money is the money that's actually invested. The amount of money is just going to stay the same. Okay. Um, okay. Um, yeah. Okay. So how do we want to do this? Because we want to have a little bit of inflation as well. So anyway, so let me say this stock market is going to equal the stock market variable, and then this um, current expenses is going to equal the current expenses. Okay. Um, so let's figure that the stock market, you're getting 8%, and inflation, you're gaining 3%. Now, these numbers may be inaccurate. I'm just pulling these out, making them up on the way, um, just for fun. All right, so we're gonna have to change it per year. Um, so let's say the deficit. We'll create a variable called deficit. That is going to equal. Let's see. How will we do this? It's a good question. We might need to bring in the life expectancy to do this. So um, let's just call this total deficit then. And maybe this is a quicker thing to write than I thought. But anyway, so life expectancy. So our deficit is going to be um, the stock market amount times, and I want to use powers of a number. Let me search powers of number PHP. Okay. And I want to use the POW function. So let me just see how I would use that properly. So I would do POW, and then for stock market, like 1.08, and then the amount of years. So we're going to do times POW 1.08 raised to the life expectancy. And we want to do this. Life expectancy, and I want to go up here. Okay. So it's raised to that, but then we have to subtract off the current expenses. Current expenses times 1.03, Let me wrap this. 1.03 raised to the to this life expectancy. Okay. Okay. So we've got our deficit. Now we also want to have the complete amount that you have at the end. Okay. And I think that's all we're going to need to write. So the complete amount is going to equal it's going to equal the amount of money you have plus your deficit, right? So actually, this function is going to take in the amount of money as well. Okay, so it's going to be basically the amount of money. So if your deficit is negative, that means you're losing money. So we're going to do the amount of money, or this amount of money, and then plus the deficit. Okay, and then at the end, we're going to return the deficit. Okay. All right. I think that's good, but we have an error here. What is wrong here? Let's hover over it. Unexpected token. Okay, let's look at our math.pal. Let's say if we did it with just that. It's not letting us do that for some reason. This is not going to work. Okay, no, it's still giving us an error. So, unexpected token. So it says I'm using the. No. So never mind that. That was fine. I'll show you what the error was. We're going to have POW here. Right? Unexpected token. Well, let's take it out again. I think this should work, though. No, it's still giving me an error. Huh. Okay. Let's look up some more documentation. So let's take a look. This sometimes happens when you're coding. So POW. So let's see. Do I have to? Is it making me want to use an integer? No, it's still being weird. All right, let's see if we can do this another way. So raising a number to a power in PHP. Is there another way to do this? Maybe if we change, we set a variable here. So let's just call a variable stock market percent. And inflation. Okay, and then, wait a minute. Now it's showing that, let's do stock market percent. And let's do here inflation. Unexpected token. Huh. Syntax error, unexpected token. Says there's a comma where there is no comma. Did I put a comma in here? Maybe I put a comma instead of period? No? There's no comma above. We want to return the complete amount here. Okay. Okay. It's early in the morning. I need my coffee. Anyways, that's why this is a code along. Okay. All right. Interesting. Yeah. All right. So it wanted me to use that because it was not liking maybe that. I don't know. Okay. So we're returning the complete amount. And so you got a little debugging there. All right. So we have our retirement class. So now we have to go back to our form handler and create an object. And so let's go down here, open up PHP tag and close it down here. And we're going to have a variable, let's call it can I retire? And let's make that a new retirement. Okay. And then we want to call the method and pass in these variables. So we're going to have can I retire total deficit? Total deficit, and we're going to pass in the order is important. So stock market, current expenses, and life expectancy. And also then the amount of money you have. Okay. And then we're going to go here at the beginning and let's call this, I don't know, money left. Was that? And then let's have an if else statement here. So we'll say if money left is greater than 0, we'll echo parentheses, you can retire. No, hold on. Don't want to do that just yet. We don't have a plus anyways. That's Python. You can retire. You have, and then money left, and let's do a $sign at the end. Okay, and else will echo, you can't retire yet. At the end, you have a deficit of money left dollars. Okay. All right. So let's check this out and see how it's going. All right. So retirement app. Okay. So we're showing a blank screen. So let's go back here to our index.php. Let me run this again. Retirement app title number. So something's, oh, yeah. Title's messed up here. Okay, and, oh, because I cut out the stuff. All right, so it's early. I got to bring this stuff back in. So I hit Control X, I believe. Okay, and let's make sure that in this form. Okay, all right. Let's refresh that. Okay, so now we've got our app back. Enter the amount you currently have. So let's say you have, not in the stock market, $2 million. Okay, and then let's say you have $500,000 in the stock market. Your current expenses are 60 grand a year, and you expect to live 50 more years. Let's submit. Form.php was not found on the server. No, it was not. Okay, let's go back and let's do that again. Now let's refresh. We have to refresh the page. All right, so again, so $2 million, not in the stock market, $500,000 in the stock market, current yearly expenses, 60 grand a year, the amount of years you expect to live, left 50. You can retire. You have, so you actually gain some money at the end, which actually sort of makes sense. That you gain some money at the end. We should have the $sign first. Okay, let's fix that. Form handler. Just put the $sign over here. Okay. All All right, let's go back and let's refresh this and let's enter in some values that are more reasonable. Let's say you have $100,000, not in the stock market. You have 50 grand in the stock market. Your yearly expenses are, let's say, 40 grand, and you expect to live another 40 years. And if I'm looking at this, there's probably something wrong with my logic. So let's take a look. All right. So let's go back to my retirement class. Okay. Okay. So we got our stock market minus our current expenses. So our deficit. Um, and how much did I put in the stock market here? Oh, 50 grand in the stock market. Let's be a little bit more realistic. Let's say we have $0 in the stock market. You can't retire yet. At the end, you have a deficit of 30,000. So that doesn't seem to be right. Okay, so yeah, because this is going to be the deficit is going to be the amount per each year. So maybe we need to do a for loop. All right, so let's do a for loop. So let's say for x equals 0, x is less than this life expectancy. And then we'll increment x up each time through the loop. We'll start with a variable called total deficit. And we'll start that at 0. And we'll say total deficit equals it's going to be the this stock market times and we're not going to say equals, we're going to say plus equals. Okay, plus equals plus the power of plus the power of it's going to be stock market percent raised to the x power plus 1. Okay. No, actually, because the first year, it's just going to be whatever it is. Okay. So raised to the x power. So, and then minus, it's going to be this current expenses times the power of the inflation raised to the x power. Okay, so that's going to be your total deficit. And then here, we're going to add the total deficit. Okay. see if that logic works. All right, so I'm going to enter these amounts again. You can't retire yet. At the end, you have a deficit of negative 2,916,000. Yeah, that seems more reasonable. Okay, because you're spending 40,000 a year, you have nothing in the stock market, so you're not gaining anything. You start with 100,000, and then your yearly expenses are going to increase. Okay, all right, let's go back to our previous example of 2 million, and you have 500,000 in the stock market. 500,000. And your yearly expenses are 60 grand, and you expect to live 50 more years. Let's see. You can retire. You do have money at the end. $282 million. That doesn't seem quite right either. Okay, let's see. So all right, so you have the money going into or from the stock market times that minus your current expenses times inflation per year. So that should go up for the remainder of your life. And okay. Well, let's see. What is $2 million times 1.08 raised to the 50th power? That's 93 million. Okay. 93 million. Okay. And then what is 60 grand times 1.03 raised to the 50th power? 263,000. Oh, wait, but we didn't have that much in the stock market. Sorry, we had 500,000. 23 million. So if you get back 23 million, saying 282 million. Okay. Let's take a look at my index. Stock market. Okay. Need some coffee. Let's see. Well, there is some error in logic here, for sure. Actually, yeah, I don't need to do this for loop. And when I thought about it, it's like, so we just have to have some variables. Amount left in stock market. So let's call it amount left in stocks is going to be it's going to be this stock market times the stock market percent raised to the life expectancy. Okay. And then the expenses deficit, let's call it that, expenses deficit is going to equal this current expenses times inflation raised to the life expectancy. Oh, sorry, this life expectancy. And we use this keyword again. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to say that the total deficit is equal to the amount left in stocks minus the expenses deficit. Okay. Oh yeah, we got to put power here. Pow. 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 Okay. And then so if your total deficit, if this is greater, then we're going to see. Okay, now the logic should work. Let's redo this, resubmit. You can retire. You have 25 million at the end, which makes sense because with this amount you gained 23 million. You only really lost about no, that's not right either, because that's only like what your current expenses. That's what your current expenses would be at the end of 50 years after inflation. Okay, and that's the amount you would add in 50 years after the stock market rose. So we're still going to have our for loop. All right, so I'm going to say for let. Oh, no, this isn't JavaScript. So x equals 0. X is less than this life expectancy. And then we'll increment x up. Okay. And we're going to have all this stuff happen here. And close it off here. And go here and move that over. And the total deficit is going to be plus equals this. Okay. So this is going to be per year. So the amount left in stocks is going to be that. So yeah, you actually could have a lot of money if you had more in the stock market at the end. It just keeps incrementing on itself. But some of that money is going to go away from so we're assuming you leave it in the stock market. So some of that money is going to go away from the amount of money you have. So it's not 100% accurate here. So what we're going to have to do is put this in parentheses and say minus, because we're going to assume you're going to probably need to take out from the stock market. And you probably have to pay taxes as well, but we're not going to factor that in. Minus the expenses deficit here. Okay, and then I'm going to cut this here and move this down here and save it. Okay, so yeah, if you don't touch the amount of money you have, okay, let's say you don't want to touch it. Okay, I think my logic's good on this one. It's getting ready. I'm having to start to get ready for work. So we'll see. If it's not, then I'm going to leave it to you. All right, so we'll submit this and you can retire. You have 544 million at the end. I don't think that's quite right. All right, let's go with a realistic example and see what happens here. So 100,000, and then in the stock market, let's say you have zero, and your current yearly expenses are 40,000, and you have 40 years left to live, or you expect to live. So you can't retire yet because you're going to end up with a deficit of negative 118 million. Those numbers seem large, but who knows with inflation? Money people out there watching this video, tell me where my logic might be off in my programming. This was a programming exercise. I am not a financial analyst by any means, so tell me where I went wrong in my programming because I don't really believe these numbers. But leave comments in the comments below. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this programming exercise in HTML, CSS, PHP, and we didn't have any JavaScript, but I hope you enjoyed it. A little bit of web development on a Friday morning. If you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications as it really helps the channel grow. And I thank you for watching. And if you have liked and subscribed, I thank you for doing that. And I hope to see you again in the next video. Have a great day.